is Good Morning Uganda.
A fresh new week. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda. With me, Olive Monica Najuma, alongside Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono, Chantal Olive Akandinda, and Jerome Paul Sonko. Now together, we will usher you into this fresh new week and keep you informed and updated across the globe about events happening in Uganda, East Africa, and also across the globe. And speaking about across the globe, the UK has a new Prime Minister in the person of Keir Starmer, who became Prime Minister last week. And also, Rishi Sunak has officially resigned as UK Prime Minister and also as leader of the Conservative Party. Now, speaking about the events that are happening in the UK, it begs for the question if they affect any plans that were to be made as far as the Rwandan plan was concerned, because they were supposed to now start bringing asylum seekers to Rwanda. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Good morning to you and good morning to our dear viewer. It is a fresh new week, just like I mentioned. The beauty about the new Prime Minister, by the way, is that he's an Arsenal fan. So for us as the Arsenal supporters, that is way off the politics, but we're excited that he's a man that is coming into the space. And of course, looking back at the controversial term of Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, when he came out to reveal, or when he came out to resign in front of the media, and of course in his final speech as Prime Minister, you get to realize that he had so many critics as a Prime Minister, and not ruling out the fact that he's also of an Indian descent as well, but he has served according to what he was expected to do. However much many things did not turn out as they would. And on the issue of the asylum seekers, I'm forced to believe that since it was decided as a government, the chances are high that it will further continue, or those arrangements will continue. But besides that, also back here at home, some of the activists reacted to the president forming a new unit of anti-corruption in Uganda, because the president established the State House Revenue Intelligence and Strategic Operations Unit. Now, this unit is to oversee tax administration and to also oversee the Uganda Revenue Authority to combat any sort of corruption cases or scenarios within the Uganda Revenue Authority. Some activists feel creating a new anti-corruption unit was not that necessary, but we would at least use the platforms that we have. But of course, the president was very strategic to come up with this particular one that will be overseeing the tax administration in the country. But also, the beauty is for the food lovers in Kampala, the Kampala Restaurant Week takes the second week. And for those who want to try out local and international cuisines, you can find out many of the listed restaurants in Kampala. It is, it's kind of a time for us to celebrate Ugandan food dishes, and then also trying to look at what restaurants that we have, do they meet the standards of the international restaurants? But that aside, it's a fresh new week, and I'm excited for it.
Yes, excitement is all that we have. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you feeling?
I'm great. Are you excited about the new week?
I am indeed excited, especially I was doing some reading over the weekend, and Uganda will be still participating in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. And we do have a team that has already been selected of about 20 athletes that are going to be representing our country. And of course, we have had some of the best that we've had over the years. And my only prayer and hope is that we bring the medals back home again.
All right. And we hope for the best. By the way, speaking about sports, our rugby team did a thing. Jerome Paul.
The Rugby Sevens.
Yes, the Rugby Sevens.
And we're waiting for their return now.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
they lifted the flag high. They, you know, it's kind of a good thing when you see the sports world, especially Uganda's national teams performing from different spheres, especially away from home. We've always had ghosts that normally haunt us when we are not in our grounds here in Chadondo or anywhere around Legends.
Yes.
But at least when you go away from the country and still win, I think it is high time we started also focusing on investing heavily in rugby, cricket, because when you look at most of our sports world here in Uganda, or most of the budget goes to football, yet we also have other sports disciplines
We have,
that
yes,
need
that are
huge funding.
performing even way better than football.
Than
Yes.
football.
Yes.
Just like that, football caught stray bullets.
In
But
the morning.
yes, our national team did so well in the rugby sevens, and we hope that they continue with this feat. But now coming back to Studio A, where I'm standing with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. I don't know if he's excited that an Arsenal fan became UK's new Prime Minister, or that the rugby sevens were won by Uganda. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very fine, and I want to believe so is our viewer. In case you're not, well, just keep it with us. We'll spice up and brighten up your morning. Now, as an Arsenal fan, I'm very happy that he's at the helm of UK politics. But there's something that I want us to take home. The culture of resigning. When we had the Brexit in the UK, if you remember very well, where the UK was moving away from the European Union, Theresa May was then the Prime Minister.
Yes.
The pressure was so much. And we saw Theresa May coming to an end with a polite way of saying, I think I'm defeated, I've done all it takes, and a honorable stepping down. Now, there came in Boris Johnson. And this was during COVID-19, where he hosted a party at his home. The critics were so much and all that. And Boris Johnson stepped down and resigned. Now, we are seeing another Prime Minister.
Did he step down and resign, or there was a vote?
There was
where
a vote, fine, but you see, the way they let things go.
Okay.
Theresa May, Boris Johnson. Now, even this one, it was very easy, because when you have precedents, you're doing something for the very first time. To say, I think I've fallen short of my glory, I accept that I'm no longer fit for this position. Then let me, for the good of the nation, let me step down. And at all levels, here we are looking at the Prime Minister. But that culture even is something that I've not seen in our political arena. I think the only person I remember who resigned and people were like, she's in a fatty position, how does she live? Was Jennifer Musisi, who woke up and said, yes, I've been the ED of Kampala, but I resign. Now, recently I saw the deputy director of a certain organization, that is the Uganda Investment Authority. But you see, this resignation is also questionable now. So I think our political leaders must speak on the culture of resigning when you feel that things are not moving the right way, rather than pushing and pushing and pushing.
I think what you call,
our
okay, it is
continent.
resignation on paper, but I believe that to a degree they are pushed. Even the famous Winston Churchill resigned at some point, although he came back a few years later, but still there is always a push. There are always outside forces. Maybe what I can take from this is that when the pressure is too much, instead of pushing back, they decide to leave. But that's what's happening in the UK. Coming back to Uganda, Robert will take us through the first story from the local scene.
Well, we'll begin with the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, retired Major Jessica Alupo, who commissioned 1,500 Patriots in Katakwi district. The Patriots were drawn from secondary schools and vocational training institutions within Katakwi district. She stressed the 4 major principles of NRM government, which calls for nationalism, Pan-Africanism, democracy, and socio-economic transformation. She advised them to ensure that they fight poverty. She called upon the Patriots to focus on wealth creation through commercial agriculture, information and communication technology, and industrialization.
Now moving on, the Minister of State for Investment and Privatization, Evelyn Anite, recently opened a fresh fight to save millions of money lost in the development of Kampala Industrial Park in Namamve. She says the corrupt have got high connections. They put on an innocent face in front of the president, but she hastened to add that she won't be bullied in her policy role of helping the president to fight them. Minister Anite is displeased with the payment disguised as honorable to selected Uganda Investment Authority staff, including the Director General. According to the Uganda Investment Authority officials, the payment was part of the Uganda Investment Authority human resource procedure.
And moving on, a Saturday saw different Owitong subscribing to Lango Culture Foundation escorted their colleague Frederick Ogwar Oye, the Owitong of Imono clan in Boke Ward, Rila City, West Division during his Meet the People tour. Some of these Owitong were invited on Friday by Willie Omondo, the spokesperson of Lango Culture Institution, for a special reconciliatory council meeting, which they snubbed. But LC's ministers and Minister of Foreign Affairs responsible for diplomacy and cultural relations, also the chief of Pala, Okal clan Amba, Dixon Ogwang Okul, said he has no respect for an illegal entity. Fred Ogwal Oye said an accused cannot invite the complainant for reconciliation at his home. Other clan chiefs believe going to court is the best solution. The current dispute was triggered by the March 2024 election of engineer Dr. Michael Moses Odong Okune as the new paramount chief. Clan chiefs subscribing to Musei Odra, a biz faction, boycotted the election on grounds that it was fraudulently and that Oyosama Odwal term will end in November, shortly after a new paramount chief is elected.
Now, speaking matters digital communication, the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda, is expanding on the existing data center to provide more computer and storage space for government systems. This will prevent failure of one system affecting another digital structure within government. The Executive Director, NITA Uganda, Dr. Hatweb Mogasa, says it is aimed at making effective ongoing initiatives, including the Uganda Digital Acceleration Project, UDAP, which seeks to connect all districts, sub-counties and parishes. A few weeks ago, National Information Technology Authority Uganda won the prestigious World Summit for Information Society Award in Switzerland. The award, issued by the United Nations, was recognizing UGPass system, a special digital product created and developed by NITA Uganda. It is a digital authentication and e-signature system that enables citizens to digitally sign documents. Uganda's competition with all countries under the UN umbrella has re-energized NITA Uganda to advance the country's digital journey further. So, the authority is expanding on the existing data storage center to ensure safety of national data. Other ongoing undertakings, such as the Uganda Digital Acceleration Project and Uganda Hub, will be effective. Uganda Digital Acceleration Project, a project approved by Parliament in 2023, will connect all local governments to the national communication system. NITA Uganda envisions an 100% connection to all districts, including the islands. Well, that does it from the local scene. Now we launch into the international scene with Chantal.
Well, the new Foreign Secretary wants to receive the UK-European Union ties, David Lammy's whirlwind fast trip as Foreign Secretary, organized at very short notice, isn't about instant results or even brave new horizons. It's all about perception, the appearance of a new, vigorous administration determined to hit the ground running, brimming with goodwill towards some of UK's most important partners. After an evening spent with his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock, the two found time to watch a few minutes of England's European Championship quarter-final. Mr. Lammy's tour moved to the bucolic surroundings of the country estate of Poland's Foreign Minister Radoslaw, and after a couple of hours of talks, it was back on the plane for a short flight north to one of NATO's newest members, Sweden. Partly because of Ukraine, along with Britain, all three countries play important roles in sustaining peace war effort, with the new Defense Secretary John Haley on the ground in Odessa. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's government is keen to stress that the UK's commitment to Ukraine will remain rock solid. Away from that, France's far-right National Rally has failed to win a majority in parliamentary elections. Official results show a victory for the left-wing New Popular Front NFP alliance. President Emmanuel Macron's centrist Ensemble alliance came second, with the RN third. The country now faces the prospect of a hung parliament, as the three groups have no tradition of working together. There was no immediate comment from Macron, and this was the second round of voting in France's snap parliamentary election, which Macron called a month ago. After the RN did well in the first round a week ago, leftist or centrist candidates in many places withdrew, a tactical move to allow the anti-RN votes to go to one contender. A full breakdown of the results in terms of seats will be expected shortly. Moving on, Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed the Rwanda deportation scheme is dead and buried on his first full day as Prime Minister. The Labour leader said he would end the gimmick of deporting migrants arriving in the UK illegally to Rwanda, which was established by the previous Conservative government. Labour campaigned on a manifesto pledge to scrap the scheme, which has already cost around 310 million euros, promising a more effective approach of tackling illegal immigration to replace it. At his first press conference since entering number 10, Sir Keir told journalists the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. He argued the scheme has never been a deterrent, as it would only deport less than 1% of small boat arrivals. The financial implications of scrapping the scheme and total bill to the taxpayer are not yet known. Ending the scheme also leaves a question mark over the fate of 52,000 migrants earmarked for deportation. And lastly, matters climate. Last month's SB60 climate talk in Bonn, Germany have proven to be another missed opportunity in the fight for our planet's future. The 60th session of the subsidiary bodies to the UN Framework Convention on climate change was marred with disappointing patterns. Robust climate finance mechanisms were absent, and unanimous commitments proved challenging to secure. The reluctance to fully embrace the necessary steps for a just transition was clear. As we inch closer to November's COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, this lack of progress and commitments from the key nations threatens its success and therefore the global effort to keep the Paris Agreement's 1.5 degrees Celsius target within reach. The consequences of this inaction are not theoretical. They are already manifesting in the tragic loss of life following extreme heat in India and Africa. These deaths are a stark reminder of the human cost of climate inaction. That's it for our climate news and international stories.
Well, thank you, Chantal Olive. Now, Jerome Paul, right next to you, has more for us in the world of the dailies.
And the new vision is highlighting there are ghosts in education, according to Museveni, Minister to submit report on capitation grants and teachers. More of that is in the New Vision. State House aide appointed ESO deputy boss as police probes 3.7 billion shillings cargo from Taiwan. Then health, how to ban that belly fat. Read about that in the New Vision. Then also there is a pictorial of President Museveni and the First Lady during the celebrations of his legacy and achievements on Friday at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds. Then MSC speaks out on 100 billion loans saga. Find more within the New Vision today. Now, the Daily Monitor, education that pays, right footing with the old secondary school curriculum long derided. As delivering theoretical knowledge and unemployable graduates, the government may finally be on the right track with a teaching method that empowers O-level students to cash in on their skills. Then anniversary, church asks parents to guide children on social media use. As Judith Babiria on life as a commoner in Canada. Find out more about government blowing a final whistle on all USMID projects as taxman salutes its new sheriff in town. Also, healthy living. What is Yoma Toke? And then Panorama, the curious case of missing Karimajong Street children. Read about that in the Daily Monitor. Then the Daily Nation, that is from Kenya, is highlighting inside members of parliament's plot to grab state tenders. Then the Sabasaba concert, young Kenyans during the Shujas Memorial Concert held yesterday at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. As peace prevailed, as thousands of Kenyans across the country turned up to celebrate protesters who lost their lives during the recent revolt against the controversial finance bill. Then jobs reprieve for junior school teachers and intern doctors. Also, U.S. elections, is Kamala Harris want to beat Donald Trump in November? Read about that. Then Kenya on high alert as Mpox virus detected in the DR Congo. Euro 2024, France shrug off their critics, look ahead to semi-finals. Then how debts and salaries have impeded growth in devolved units. Record smasher Faith Kipyegon shelters her own 1,500 meters world record in a Parish outing. Then lastly, the Citizen newspaper. Why land disputes dominate complaints to legal aid team. Then Bank of Tanzania warns microfinance institutions on interest rates. Elsewhere, reasons Morogoro is seeking city status. Tanzanian-born American clamors for dual citizenship. Then in the national impact, how loss of imported fuel has been slashed. Then national appeal stakeholders call for internet backup. That is it from our press review this morning.
Well, thank you, Jerome. Now we will take a short break and we will leave you with Intentions by Justin Bieber. But when we come back, why is illegal fishing still persevering on Uganda's lakes? That's the conversation we'll be delving into, and you can join us through WhatsApp number 0709-602592 or on our X app, and the hashtag is UBCGMU.
Uganda.
A fresh new week. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda. With me, Olive Monica Najuma, alongside Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono, Chantal Olive Akandinda, and Jerome Paul Sonko. Now together, we will usher you into this fresh new week and keep you informed and updated across the globe about events happening in Uganda, East Africa, and also across the globe. And speaking about across the globe, the UK has a new Prime Minister in the person of Keir Starmer, who became Prime Minister last week. And also, Rishi Sunak has officially resigned as UK Prime Minister and also as leader of the Conservative Party. Now, speaking about the events that are happening in the UK, it begs for the question if they affect any plans that were to be made as far as the Rwandan plan was concerned, because they were supposed to now start bringing asylum seekers to Rwanda. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Good morning to you and good morning to our dear viewer. It is a fresh new week. Just like I mentioned, the beauty about the new Prime Minister, by the way, is that he's an Arsenal fan. So for us as the Arsenal supporters, that is way off the politics, but we're excited that he's a man that is coming into the space. And of course, looking back at the controversial term of Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, when he came out to reveal or when he came out to resign in front of the media and of course in his final speech as Prime Minister, you get to realize that he had so many critics as a Prime Minister, and not ruling out the fact that he's also of an Indian descent as well, but he has served according to what he was expected to do. However much many things did not turn out as they would. And on the issue of the asylum seekers, I'm forced to believe that since it was decided as a government, the chances are high that it will further continue, or those arrangements will continue. But besides that, also back here at home, some of the activists reacted to the president forming a new unit of anti-corruption in Uganda, because the president established the State House Revenue Intelligence and Strategic Operations Unit. Now, this unit is to oversee tax administration and to also oversee the Uganda Revenue Authority to combat any sort of corruption cases or scenarios within the Uganda Revenue Authority. Some activists feel creating a new anti-corruption unit was not that necessary, but we would at least use the platforms that we have. But of course, the president was very strategic to come up with this particular one that will be overseeing the tax administration in the country. But also, the beauty is for the food lovers in Kampala, the Kampala Restaurant Week takes the second week. And for those who want to try out local and international cuisines, you can find out many of the listed restaurants in Kampala. It is, it's kind of a time for us to celebrate Ugandan food dishes, and then also trying to look at what restaurants that we have, do they meet the standards of the international restaurants? But that aside, it's a fresh new week, and I'm excited for it.
Yes, excitement is all that we have. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you feeling?
I'm great. Are you excited about the new week?
I am indeed excited, especially I was doing some reading over the weekend, and Uganda will be still participating in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. And we do have a team that has already been selected of about 20 athletes that are going to be representing our country. And of course, we have had some of the best that we've had over the years. And my only prayer and hope is that we'll bring the medals back home again.
All right, and we hope for the best. By the way, speaking about sports, our rugby team did a thing. Jerome Paul.
The Rugby Sevens.
Yes, the Rugby Sevens.
And we're waiting for their return now.
Okay.
Because
okay.
They lifted the flag high. They, it's kind of a good thing when you see the sports world, especially Uganda's national teams performing from different spheres, especially away from home.
His real time check is 5 minutes past 7 o'clock on this July morning. Now, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, together with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono right next to me. And in Studio B, I have Chantal Olive Akandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko. Now, for countless years, Ugandan fishermen have been toiling on the shores of Lake Victoria, trying to catch fish and sell them to make a buck or two. Basically, that is the main economic activity that happens on Lake Victoria. But also, we've heard the government saying that for so many years, they engage in illegal fishing practices. Why is this persistent, despite efforts having been put in place to ensure that this comes to an end. We have the Fisheries Protection Unit that has been given the task of ensuring that there is no illegal fishing on Lake Victoria, but it is still consistent. Of course, with the unit, there have been allegations of mistreatment regarding how the unit has been handling fishermen on the lake, but still it doesn't answer the question why illegal fishing persists on the shores of Lake Victoria. I'd like to loop Chantal Olive in Studio B into this conversation, starting with, first of all, when we say illegal fishing, what are some of the methods that are employed by fishermen on the lake that the unit and the government find to be inconsequential or illegal when it comes to fishing?
Olive, you are asking about some of the means that are being used, that are illegal actually, and
Yes.
maybe just to start with some of the, maybe can I say the illegal material being used to fish, and the first thing you would think about would be the mosquito nets that some were, yes, supplied by the government of Uganda, but others were obtained individually, and these are some of them that are being used. Then also there is the other part of illegal fishing would be fish that is undersized in accordance to what is supposed to be, and what is supposed to be the size that you collect from the lake. Then you can also look at some of the times that these individuals go fishing, and you can also look at the type of fish that is being can I say being fished? Am I allowed to say being fished? You can also look at the type of fish that these individuals are getting from these water bodies. Those are some of the illegal things that I can look at this very moment.
Okay, so now putting that into perspective, Robert, I remember last year we had the head of the Fishing Protection Unit on Lake Victoria speak to us, and he shared some insights on how they do their work and what they look at when they say that this is illegal, this is, you're not supposed to catch this kind of fish, you're not supposed to use the methods that Chantal has mentioned. But why, in your perspective, do you think that despite us having concerted efforts to ensure that illegal fishing comes to an end on the lake, this still continues?
Thank you so much. First, we must understand, why do we see government putting all efforts to combat illegal fishing? Why is this a problem that government must invest, that even us we are talking about? Now, first and foremost, when we look at our lakes, they have a number of species of fish. But you find that at one time, our exports, fish was next to coffee. Now, as we speak, fish moved from position 2 to almost position 8. Now, what are the reasons that we see the decline in the number of exports, and why government is moving forward? One, illegal fishing involves fishing young, let me use the common word used, young fish. Because for every fish species, there is a certain length it must reach, an average length, for it to be considered that this is mature fish, ready for eating. Now, when people fish young fish, that means the fish are not going to reproduce. The stocks are going to decrease, and at the end of the day, those species that we had are going to be extinct. Yet, some of them are not very common to other countries, and they yearn for them. For example, the Nile perch. The tilapia we are talking about here. Now, if you keep on fishing these young fish that have not laid the eggs, have not reproduced, then our fish stocks in our lakes are going to go down. So this is what government is fighting, that let's leave these fish reach that level of being able to lay their eggs, reproduce, so that we have more fish in the lakes. Now, what fishermen were doing, they were looking for gears that get small fish. And at the end of the day, you would go to the lake, and maybe you have orders of various orders outside Uganda, or even in Uganda, but the fish is not there. So that is why government went into fighting illegal fishing. And I remember it was 2017 when we saw the Fisheries Protection Unit hit the waters. However, it was short-lived. 2019, Parliament suspended it over allegations of violence and abuse of human rights.
Yes.
Now, you must also understand that why this is being persistent, like you asked, it is a combination of so many factors. One, the gears, the right gears used for fishing are quite expensive. For example, a net, you have to partner with 150, 120 and above. That's the average cost. Yet these illegal fishing gears are relatively cheap. So a fisherman would rather go for something that is cheaper for him to get the fish. Second, the challenge we are having that the size of fish that Uganda will ban our neighbors, if you remember when we had this standoff when Uganda impounded some fish and it was illegal for Uganda, but Congo it is not. For Kenya it is not, because we may not have the problem as we have the problem. So this illegal fish, this young fish is cheaper and people will buy it so often. But also we have areas where it is not illegal if you skillfully export it there. But also the other bigger problem is URA and UNBS plus the Fisheries Protection Unit have gaps. How? One, we say we have porous borders, but you find that our brothers in URA may aim at tax, much as not so much focusing on prohibited or forbidden goods to enter our country. So there's an issue of porous borders that someone may sneak in this, but also you find that URA at the entry point, because all these fishing gears, 90% are imported in our country. And when you hear the word importation, where do they pass to access our market? Then, when you move ahead, you'll find that even all efforts that His Excellency and government has put in place, the corrupt have been able to get it. I was speaking to one of the fishermen, I think about 3 years back, and I asked him, but if these nets are illegal, how do they get into the waters? And how do you purchase them? He told me, Robert, even if you came from UBC or anywhere else and you want to purchase this illegal net, you can't get it. You have to go through a broker who is sure they will trust you. He will come and pick the money until you stand somewhere. Then a border will come and deliver the net to you. Then you go on the waters, bribe the leadership to allow you use that net. So it is a factor of a lot of things that you find very hard to fight, and above all, the politicians. When you arrest a number of fishermen, of course you expect their member of parliament to come up. And the politicians have played so much, because the enforcement team will tell you that why we use that force, these fishermen are not also willing to surrender. A person has about fish of about 2 million, and they know you're coming to arrest them, they'll fight you. They want to save their money. So you must have enough force. And in the end, that's why you see injuries, sometimes you see lives lost. But also, if we go to broaden coverage and ask for how many members of the armed forces have been either permanently eliminated, put out of action, or injured by the fishing community, or injured in this scuffle. Of course, not forgetting those that have also been taken up by the device.
Now, before I go to Jerome Paul, Chantal, Robert has touched on issues of corruption when it comes to the fishing community and those that are supposed to ensure that there is no illegal fishing. So I would like to know from your perspective how you think corruption and lack of or poor enforcement contributes to the persistent illegal fishing on Lake Victoria. And well, actually not just Lake Victoria, on Uganda's lakes.
Well, it's as simple as it gets. In a number of cases, the individuals who are caught, one, with fish that is undersized, or even with can I call it unauthorized fishing gear, those individuals either they have to bear the cost of their gear being taken away, or the cost of paying someone or giving someone something for them to stay in business. And usually the easier option is getting someone something for that, so that they leave you alone. And that is how we've seen, literally that is how it has persisted on the different landing sites that we have in the country. The individuals who are caught end up paying those that are catching them to be able to stay in business, to be able to keep fishing. And that, of course, now leads to the persistent, illegal fishing on some of these sites.
And reports indicate that 76% of fish species in Lake Victoria face extinction due to illegal fishing. So when government comes in and says, you know what, you need to stop doing this, it is coming from somewhere. You did mention this as well. And I remember growing up, you would see a Nile perch that was big as me or you. But lately, when you go to the market, you cannot find such Nile perch anymore. Could this be as a result, Jerome Paul? And here I want us to look at the ecosystem and biodiversity of Lake Victoria itself and other lakes. And do you think that because of illegal fishing, that's why even the quality and size of the fish we are getting is smaller compared to what we used to know, even the tilapia itself? But also, how does this how does this extensively affect the ecosystem of the lakes and the biodiversity?
Well, let's look at the quality of the fish that we have today.
Yeah.
Like you've mentioned, we had so many, cases where, where fishermen could, go out there, do their fishing and get, let's say, a fish taller than yourself.
Yes.
And
taller than Chantal.
Don't say it.
Nah, I highly doubt. But besides that, when you come to think of it today, it is it even makes news when we have such a fish caught in one of our water bodies.
Yes.
And like you've asked, you get to realize that the reason behind this is the illegal fishing. We have so many premature fish on the market. And this is something that the government with the different agencies, especially the Fishing Protection Unit, has been able to, to try to put an end to. However, the efforts have not yielded into the final results that we were expecting, because these cases are continuing. But when you look at the after effects of illegal fishing and of course fishing out premature fish, you do realize that the quality of the fish in the coming years also deteriorates, because you're not giving chance to this fish to actually grow into something that would even be more profitable for a fisherman. But of course, again, you're not going to blame them entirely, because according to reports, it is also revealed that illegal fishing seems to be very profitable. Why? Because there is a lot of market. There is high demand.
Yes, for the small fish.
For the small fish, and it is cheap for everyone. That is why when you go to these fishing communities, you realize that everyone is willing to purchase fish as low as 2,000, 3,000. Now, if someone is dealing in, illegal fishing and of course fishing, let's say, of premature fish, the chances are very high that they're not going to stop. And there was also a report here on the rising concerns that sentences for illegal fishing spiked between 2021 to 2022. However, last year, that is from 2022 to 2023, they decreased. Now, when you look at this temporary increase in conviction, where people are just arrested for just a short time, once they are out, they definitely go back to do the same thing. Yes. So that means that element of enforcement, we have completely failed in regards to the arrests. Because if someone who is supposed to face, let's say, some good time in prison only spends a few months, the chances are they have not reformed. And when they get back to, when they get back on ground, because they are used to fishing, that is the best economic activity they know.
Maybe the problem, do you think maybe the problem is not necessarily the arrest, because those are being carried out, but probably the sentences they are serving are not deterrent enough, and that's why after a few months, they come back onto the lakes and carry on as business for every day.
Yeah, you can think of it in that way, because the Sundaysers may not be as tough they may not be as tough to scare someone from indulging in illegal fishing.
All right. So
but
now
I also think,
okay.
Sorry to cut you short. I also think that where we also hit a wall was, I think our approach in the very beginning was not the very best.
Okay.
There was a lot of violence that was applied, especially on those landing sites from the Fisheries Protection Unit, and that led to retaliation of these individuals who are carrying out fishing, who had been carrying out fishing. You're telling someone who has been fishing for the last 25 years to go through a drastic change in terms of how they're doing these activities without even first helping them understand where you're coming from and the dangers of what they are doing, then immediately you want them to do a drastic change and you're enforcing it, and then there is a lot of violence. I believe that also caused a lot of problems in terms of people are now more protective instead of being able to listen and act accordingly.
And you know, we also have so many water bodies in the country, where not so many that we can fail to count, but you do realize that monitoring at times becomes difficult. That we have different streams, we have rivers, you have you have lakes, of which, for example, Lake Victoria, we're sharing Lake Victoria with 2 other countries.
Yes.
So making it even a little difficult in regards to monitoring. You're just from monitoring and enforcing around, let's say, Entebbe, or you head to Kasenyi, or you head to Jinja. Then you hear there is a certain case somewhere else. Let's say on Lake Edward,
yes,
or you know, elsewhere, because we have so many of those fish catchment areas. But at times you get to realize that there is some element of awareness that needs to be pushed out there, because the more we are enforcing while arresting without making people aware of the dangers of what we have, or of dealing in illegal fishing, and of course using illegal fishing methods, you do realize that at times people will just look at things as the government is just stopping us from earning.
So, Jerome, I would like for us actually to look at the numbers. Currently, fishing employs about 800,000 Ugandans. And in 2021, about 30% of gill nets were found to have illegal mesh sizes or were made from prohibited synthetic monofilament fibers. But also, Nile perch exports from Uganda dropped from second highest earning export to 8th place in commercial value from 2018 to 2023. Robert mentioned this earlier. Now, the annual fish haul from Lake Victoria is around 1 million tons, worth over $800 million. So we have looked at the problems. The fishermen or the fishing community also has problems of its own. Chirabo did mention that the fishing gear is very expensive for them to attain.
Yes.
Now look at a population of 800,000 people earning from fishing. So let's look at the solutions. What innovative solutions or technologies can be employed to ensure that we have safe fishing in the country, also safeguarding our fish so that they don't become extinct, but also ensure that the fishing community has a way of living?
Well, first we must understand the fishing community. You know, most of the times our technocrats, the politicians, we want to see things, but we don't have the actual understanding of the people of where we are carrying on this implementation and enforcement. First, let's understand these fishing communities. Who is a fisherman on Ugandan waters? If you go to most of these landing sites, a child is born on this landing site. Many of them don't have good education, and they are shown the lake, that this is where you're going to live and earn for the rest of your life. Very illiterate, they have not stepped in any class, because you go to these landing sites.
They don't have schools?
They don't have schools. If they have, they are very few. The health conditions are very poor. They don't have any skill apart from fishing.
So they are lacking
So
basic
their
social
entire
services.
life relies on fishing. Their future, their brain are dominated by fishing. Now, coming to them and telling them that you must change the way you've been doing things. First, as we look for solutions, what alternative source of income can these people have to supplement the fishing?
Those are the solutions that we are looking for.
Yes,
We are not saying
because
that you entirely get rid of the fishing.
what is happening is, if this man has been catching illegal fish,
Yes.
and you're telling him, we are stopping you from catching illegal fish. So if a day you've been able to make 800,000, now with this size we want, you may make maybe 200,000, yeah, doing things right. But this government should extend other programs. For example, how do we skill fishermen? I've seen the president with skilling the girl child, the boy child initiative, that these people don't. How do we introduce farming? How do we introduce some alternative sources of earning away from barely looking at the lake? That is one. Two, how do we ensure that these people appreciate? You know, you must understand the community you're dealing with. That actually this lake which your father, which your grandmother, which your grandfather had as the source of income, in a few years if we continue, you will have the water, but you won't have the fish. I went to a certain landing site, and these people previously were fishing fish. Now do you know what they are doing? They are fishing sand. They go on boats, they get a jerry can, they dive underwater,
To get sand.
they get sand, they bring that sand, pour it in the boat, and that is what they are selling.
But who buys the
previously,
sand?
They had fish. So,
Sonko, you're saying something?
You see, on the issue of the sand, the poor don't buy the sand.
Who is buying the sand?
who is
That's
but
a
what
very
may I
pertinent
brought in that
question.
on relation to show that they once had. So how do we show them the danger?
Chirabo, do you think they are going for sand because there is no more fish, or because another market by someone else? The question is here, Sonko, who is buying the sand? Who is creating the market?
You see,
for
Robert,
the
you see,
sand?
even on the issue
Now,
of
for me,
enforcement,
why I brought this example, that these people previously in that area, it is they used to get fish.
Now they don't have fish.
Now, fish became extinct, or it's very rare. You go on the lake, you don't. Now, as they were looking for an alternative,
They
someone
found the
brings the sand business. I don't want to open a can of worms or a
Okay.
Pandora's
Okay,
box.
I would like
want
to
to remain
pose this
focused.
same
I want to go
question.
into the sand issue.
Yes, I would
because
like
another
to-
complicated issue on the waters.
Okay, I would like to pose this same question to Chantal and Joram. What solutions, how best can we ensure that the fishing community is well equipped with the right ways of fishing, but also alternative ways of earning a living? Because if they are looking at one source of income, then there is going to be a problem. So what innovative solutions can we suggest for those in power, policymakers, government, to adopt?
well, of course, with the other alternatives is to try to empower them to learn how to, let's say, make their own fishing gear, for example.
Okay.
If they can import, rather export, making them from Uganda and then exporting to countries. But of course, those are alternative solutions, not entirely focusing on the fish, because there's going to be a season, or there are always seasons, where a fisherman, all these fishermen are not catching fish as they used to. So that means they're supposed to try maybe farming and then also manufacturing, because when we talk about the value addition, if we can have something to do with manufacturing of boats around, because the worst bit about people living around these landing sites is that many of them do not want to leave the areas, or they want all their life to rotate around fishing and other related activities. So make it easier for them. But then there is also something to do with the enforcement. I don't know if you've got to realize that the perception of most of the fishermen or people surrounding these fishing areas believe that every time they see an enforcement team, the government is trying to stop them from fishing and making them poor. So when it comes to the enforcement, how do they enforce, you know, how does the Fishing Protection Unit enforce, you know, safe fishing methods? Because at times, many of these people believe that the government has an intention of taking over their economic activity, so that it gives them, so that it just kind of relocates them away, so that the government makes more money out of it. And this is the perception many of these people have.
So have there been efforts to change that mindset? Chantal, do you know of any efforts that have been made to ensure that the fishermen have their mindsets changed, instead of thinking that the government is out here to get them?
Personally, I've not heard of any, except, of course, we've seen efforts to try and minimize the violence of the Fisheries Protection Unit against the civilians or the residents of the different landing sites. That is the minimum I have known that is being done to at least make sure that these individuals are safe. And as of now, that's literally all we know.
I think just to interject briefly, Sonko mentioned about mindset. Now, there's something called cage fish farming. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Now, this is another thing that government must come up and explain to the fishermen, where someone gets a portion of the lake, they put their cages there, now they grow fish. Now, that area, fishermen are restricted from fishing in that particular point. If you're found around that area, you're arrested. Now, many of the fishermen wonder, government has not empowered them. Now, government is giving people money in circles, you know, cooperatives, empower them that they can also go into cage fish farming, rather than seeing an investor, a white man, a chirabo, coming and they are told that particular lake, Robert, is growing their fish there. Sometimes it's even guarded or protected. So the fishermen will believe, you want to send us away. Enyanja bagitunda abagagga bali mulundiramu biki byenyanja, because cage fish farming involves investment. Involves now an ordinary fisherman, if you tell him don't go there where he used to cast his nets and get fish, and he's seeing cages.
So, Chirabo, as we close, do you know of the criteria that government uses to have people that carry out the cage fish farming in the lake? Because probably many fishermen may not be aware.
The fishermen may not be aware, but when you go to Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries, you're given the proper channels to go through and have that. Well, it's a big investment, and if as government keeps on giving money to other groups, if these fishing communities could be organized into groups, and government gives them the skills and then the financial assistance to go into this, so that they don't see it as something not theirs and against them, but something for them, and they can contribute and also earn equally.
Well, thank you so much, Chirabo Robert and Chantal Olive, plus Joram Paul. Thank you so much for your views. We will be ending this segment right here. But before we do that, people that are applying Massacre Road, you need to know that there was an accident. A truck fell at 5:30 this morning and at Nsanji, leading to huge congestion. So if you're applying that route, you need to maybe use an alternative route, because people try using this road before 8:30 a.m. are being advised to divert to Mitiana Road or Nakauka Road. Again, there was an accident. A truck fell in the middle of the road at around 5 a.m. in Nsanji, and there is a huge congestion for people that are applying the Kampala Massacre Road. You're being advised to divert to Mitiana Road as you head to Massacre. Yes, we will end this segment right here. My name is Olive, and Good Morning Uganda continues.
Juko.
Yo.
What you check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the Parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. Still, I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja to the town or city near you between July and December this year. Don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda as we see it today never had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of all these races, the races of Africa.
Ngero would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Ngero are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even
Similar people.
We are one. Use that word, Pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
So we have all had the social studies in our early education primary levels, and this is the time where we studied about the early man, the Stone Age period, and probably we could be thinking that they're not real, but here at Ngero Rock paintings are one of the oldest historical sites in East Africa. These social studies that we had actually comes into reality. You get to see these caves, the paintings that the early men used to communicate. Like you see a lot of history that you would really want to learn and explore. Well, this is the GMU Tourism Express, where we take you around Uganda. We committed our lives to taking you around Uganda, showing you the beautiful parts, the hidden games that you need to explore and know why we are really actually called the Pearl of Africa. Now, one of the things that actually we've been debating lately about is promoting cultural tourism in Uganda. And one of the cultural sites that we are at right now, Ngero Rock paintings, is one of those unique sites that really attracts the tourists from different parts of the world to come and see the paintings, how these historical people used to communicate, how they used to demarcate their caves. So it is just interesting to explore Ngero Rock paintings. As we traverse through this place, you're going to see the beautiful caves, the geographical sites here. You're going to see how wonderfully, how amazingly nature really blessed the Pearl of Africa.
My name is Kokoidana Rose. I'm assistant conservator in Ngero Rock paintings. First of all, I want to welcome you all to Ngero Rock paintings, part of the museums and monuments. And Ngero Rock painting is a historical site, a cultural site, archaeological site, a tour site, tourism site. It is a government entity which was gazetted in 1973 and documented in 1913 by the Teso district. So it is under the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. Ngero Rock paintings is very unique because it is a house, or it's a home of the earliest or the early man painting, what we call the hunter-gatherers. So in this rock, we're going to find rock paintings of different colors. We're going to see paintings of off-white and red. And these paintings are believed to be orchestrated by the hunter-gatherers, or what we call early man. So it is a Stone Age site, being specific, late Stone Age site. So it attracts so many people. It attracts tourists from all over the world, from Europe. It attracts archaeologists. It attracts schools like academic giants like universities. They come and do their research here. And then also schools come to use this as their studying or study case for those who are taking history, geography, those who are taking fine art, all come to this place to experience and then see how interesting that place is. And we are currently on a tentative list of UNESCO or the World Heritage Sites as Ngero paintings. And we believe very soon it's going to be a UNESCO site. So it is very important both to the community, to the country, and also to the Ministry of Tourism as well.
What could be most unique about if you're telling tourists or someone to come and visit? Why should someone come and visit? What is most interesting about it?
First of all, the interesting part, one of it is it's one of the oldest paintings we have in East Africa, and it's one of the big or authentic paintings that we have in Uganda, recognized nationally. And then also we look at that these paintings have lived for so long that date back to 5,000 years. That is, we can say before the prehistory or before the writing or the documentation of history. So these paintings have been there for a long time. So it is very unique in that you just imagine what kind of the paint these people used. And yet these just used the things, manipulated whatever was within the environment to create their paintings at the rocks.
Well, good morning and many thanks for being part of Good Morning Uganda. It is now time for us to check into the world of business. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. It's a fresh new week and here we are. We go again to make sure that we make some good money and try as hard in this second half of the year 2024 because the chances are still around for as long as one is alive. You can easily make amends here and there. Now, starting with the National Social Security Fund, because developments coming in have revealed that NSSF has increased its assets under management by 1.6 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, this is between February and July of 2024, a figure that has put its overall assets now to 21.6 trillion Ugandan shillings. These new figures were confirmed by the executives that show that the Provident Fund's assets have grown significantly beyond 20 trillion Ugandan shillings, which was a target that was set by its 10-year strategic plan that was envisioned for next year, 2025 in June. This target was reached at the back end of January 2024, meaning that over 151 days leading up to July 2024, the fund's assets have grown by at least 10.60 billion per day. The state-controlled fund is managing director Patrick Ayota attributed this to the consistent growth in both contributions from members and income from the fund's investments, which are distributed in real estate, equities and government paper. And the preliminary analysis showed that the performance on the key indicators will surpass the annual targets. And NSSS further commended their annual credit audit as they will continue updating NSSF members at the end of the exercise. The fund introduced the 2015 to 2025 strategic plan, that is 9 years back in 2015, with primary strategic goals of increasing the assets it manages, that is assets under management, to 20 trillion by 2025, and streamlining business procedures so that the benefits can be disbursed to eligible members in a single day. Now, as of July, NSSF's fixed income portfolio stands at 79.1% of total assets, as elsewhere the equity and real estate portfolios stand at 38.8% and 7.1% respectively. And the assets under management represent the total market value of the investments that a fund manages on behalf of its contributors. And of course, that is some good news coming in from the National Social Security Fund, and the fact that its assets have now grown by 1.6 trillion in 5 months. Now, elsewhere, we head to the banking sector because Equity Bank, which is one of those banks that many Ugandans subscribe to, is heading into insurance now. Of course, one would wonder, why are they heading into this? Because Equity Bank is set to establish insurance business in Uganda, and it's currently piloting insurance services in the DR Congo, which is expected to provide knowledge that will need that Equity Bank Uganda will need while rolling out the same kind of business within Kampala. Now, Equity Group has approved the plan in which it will create a holding company to operate 4 subsidiaries, one of which will handle the insurance business, including one in Uganda, and the holding company will also handle other subsidiaries, among which will include banking, technology, and a foundation on top of it. Now, Equity Group, the approval from Equity Group is part of a large plan in which Equity seeks to establish insurance operations in 4 countries. It now operates banking subsidiaries, which include Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and Rwanda, and on top of it, Kenya. Now, the group already operates insurance business in Kenya, by the way, and it's currently piloting insurance services in the Democratic Republic of Congo, meaning it is very strategic when it comes to its operations and its stay in business within the East African Community region. Now, on top of that, Equity already operated life insurance in Kenya, where it had more than 11.5 million policies as of May 2024, and the DR Congo pilot is expected to provide key lessons before the insurance services are launched in other subsidiaries and other countries like Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda, and Tanzania. And also, Equity currently operates banking subsidiaries in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, Rwanda, and the DRC. However, the banking group is now seeking to diversify its operations by seeking and entering the insurance market, which is on a huge trajectory within the East African community. Well, away from the top stories from the world of business, we now look at the forex market to see how various currencies have been faring on the exchange. This is courtesy of the Bank of Uganda, close of business Saturday. Now, how will you find the different currencies? The US dollar opening time was buying at 3,691.59, while selling at 3,701.59. By closing time, the US dollar was buying at 3,690.82, while selling at 3,700.82. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,715.39, while selling at 4,728.16. The euro was buying at 3,994.57, while selling at 4,005.39. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.39, while selling at 1.39, as the Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.72, while selling at 28.80. And then the South African rand was buying at 202.64, while selling at 203.19 Ugandan shillings. And well, that is it from our business updates this morning. Tomorrow I'll be back to give you more from the world of business. But keep it. Good morning, Uganda. Chantal Oliver Kandinda is right here to take you through the traffic updates. But on top of that, at the top of the hour, we shall head into our agenda as we talk matters oil in the country. More of that is here on Good Morning, Uganda.
Good morning once again, and thank you for sticking around. It's time for us to check how we are faring in terms of traffic. How do we get to town? Now, if you're someone that is coming from Chireka side and you are probably approaching the Nambole roundabout, or you are coming from that side, at this particular moment, Nambole roundabout is safe. However, when you exit the roundabout, and this is when you are now joining the Kampala-Jinja Highway, you'll be finding a bit of traffic, but it later loosens, and there is smooth flow of traffic all the way through Banda as you come to town. And as you can see, the only other place where you will be finding traffic will be when you are approaching Ntinda. When you're approaching the junction that is normally called the Spear Junction, and that's where you'll be finding some bit of traffic, both for incoming and those that are going into town. Now, at this very junction, what they call the Spear Junction, you'll be finding a bit of slow movement for you who is joining the junction, trying to either cross through to Banda side or cross through to Ntinda Road. That is where you'll be finding traffic. However, when you use the Jinja Road, the Nakawa Jinja Road, you'll be finding a bit of traffic as you try to connect to Chinawataka Road. But when you join Chinawataka Road, you are relatively okay to move. There is no traffic inside there. So if you can use that as an access route, I highly recommend that you do the same. Now, if you are proceeding, trying to make your way to Nakao side and also into town, you'll be finding slow movement, but nothing much to worry about. New Petway Road is safe to navigate. All is okay. And as you're approaching Lugogo side, you are safe to move. Please do note that some of this information is only as applicable as real time, because minutes later you might find something different from what we told you about. 3rd Street is safe to navigate or to move, as you can use it to connect to Old Port Bay Road depending on where you're coming from. And when you reach what we usually call the Wampeo Clock Tower, you'll be finding no traffic whatsoever. Jinja Road is also safe for you to move until you get to that very clock tower or roundabout. Usually it is mad with some traffic, but as of this moment, there is no traffic. Old Port Bay Road is safe for you to move. Wampeo Avenue is safe to use if you are trying to get to an office on that route, and the Jinja Road is also safe to use. As you can see, you are safe to move, cutting through the Jinja Road lights as well. As you can see, everything is okay. Usually Access Road is mad with a lot of traffic, but at this moment it's only mad with slow movement and nothing much for you to worry about. Mukwana Road, 8th Street, 6th Street, 7th Street, all those streets are safe to use, and if you are working from those ends, everything is okay. Still on to Press House Road. Press House Road is safe to use, and traffic seems to be okay at the moment, but we cannot guarantee what will be happening as the day goes by or as even the minutes go by. Zambia Road is safe to use, as you can see, and if you're using it to make your way to town, all is safe at the moment. Town as well seems to be safe. As you can see, Nachivubo Road has no traffic whatsoever, and Nasa Road, no traffic whatsoever. Kamukamu side, no traffic, and the side that has the side that takes you to Kampala Road as well is safe to move. Church House side is safe. You'll only be finding a bit of slow movement if you are exiting town, and that is shortly before Church House, and that is because of the junction that takes you up to the Square 2 Road. And aside from that, all is okay. Town is still safe to move. Kampala Road is all clear. You are safe to move. Chago Road as well is safe, and well, I may not be able to go as far as I can. I would have loved to, but if you're making your way downtown through Bombo Road, you're also okay to move. Hopefully I've been helpful this morning as you navigate your way through this Monday and the traffic that usually is ahead of Monday. And again, there is traffic on Masaka Road, and this has been brought about by the accident, as you can see showing on your screen. And you will need to be informed that this is causing a lot of traffic, and at the end of the day, if you're trying to use that route to get to connect out of town, you are advised to use either Mitiana Road or Nakauka Road for you to be able to move faster. Short of that, you will be held by traffic due to the accident that took place earlier this morning. And well, that's it for our traffic updates this morning. Thank you for sticking around. Good Morning Uganda agenda is coming up next. Stay with us.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja to the town or city near you. Between July and December this year, don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda, as we see today, never had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of all these races, the races of Africa.
Ngero would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Ngero are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even
similar people.
We are one. Use that word, Pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko.
Yo.
What you go? Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Gange nse Nambogo Hadija ndi nkamula juisi naye ndudde nga mukola okuva lwe nawumula ebyokusoma nali musomesa nempomula ebyokusoma nentandika okolera juisi wanawaka nga muguza abo ababasi wansi wammanga. Okusooka nali nkola obudomola 4 naye kati okuva lwe bampa ssente za Parish modo nkola obudomola nga 8. Nkola omunanansi obudomola 3 naye omunanansi guno gutali mufumbe ngukuba mu blender nga ntekako entangawuzi nenkola emicungwa obudomola 4 abantu basinga banywa nnyo emicungwa nenkola n'obutunda juisi w'obutunda nteekamu emiyembe nteekamu obutunda nteekamu epapaali nteekamu karoti abantu bamwagala nnyo nabeera heavy. Sente za Parish modo nzifuniddemu ddala kubanga luli nali ngula sukaali mu kiro kati ngulira ddala kasawo akekira 25 emitwalo 8,300 ne mukozesaako wiiki namba nentereka eza sukaali zokka nentereka amagoba gange nyinawo n'oyo omuwala omukozi buli lunaku muwe 15,000 nange nenfisaawo amagoba nembakinga. Okuva mu busomesa nenzira mukola juisi nali nzadde omwana wange asembayo bwe bampaamu liivu nagenda okulaba nga sikyasobola kuddayo ate nga wano wammanga wazeewo baasi nensooka nenkolaawo nga naye nga nkola bwange bwakunywa kati waliwo omwami eyayitawo wano nangamba ojja otuleeterenga ku butunda bwe nabutwalayo ne babwagala nange ne ntandikirawo obusomesa ne mbuwummula kubanga olwedde nali nkuze nga sikyasobola nakukeera. Ssente ezo gavumenti yatugamba tugende tuziggyeyo twekulaakulanye ng'abakyala abada awa. Kyampaliriza kubanga ssente zaali zaffe abantu abaki abawansi ate nga bazituwadde kwongera mu bizinensi. Nempalirizibwa ogenda ozijjayo naye ate ekyomukisa omulungi olw'okubanza abantu b'amabeeka yali amanyi nti nkola ndudde nga nkola juyisi, erinnya eryange lye lyasooka ku lisiti. Era saasanga buzibu bwonna bwe nagenda okusoma ng'ate balaba era mbikola n'abantu b'omu kitundu bonna balaba juyisi mumazeemu ng'emyaka 2 bampa mangu ssente kubanga erinnya eryange lwe balonkinga lwennyini lwe lyafuluma mu bajjuyi lwe lyafuluma okufuna ssente. Era nenkyebaliza Mukama. Bangi nnyo bwe balaba nga tufunye ssente baayaayaanisa awo eyo ogenda okufuna ssente ng'ate tekikyasoboka kubanga byali byakumala kujjuza mpapula. Naye nze era bensanga mbakubiriza ne mbagamba mugende ku kitawuluzi batandise okuwandiika bagenda okufunamu ssente kubanga batandise okuzzaayo nze sofa ndi 25,000 mu katabo kange ze naakazaayo. Ate nawulira nti ze bagenda okuwa abaki bano abalala bagenda okuddako. Naye mbakubiriza okugenda okwewandiisa era buli gwe nsanga nga teyafuna ssente mujjukiza nti maama Saala genda weewandiise ojja kufuna ssente kubanga ssente zaali zaki zaakuzaayo era nze mpezezza 25,000 nga njizaayo mu katabo kange.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it's 2 minutes past the hour of 8 this morning. Good morning once again. My name is Olive Monica Najama, here to steer you into this hour with a very enlightening conversation with someone that is should be very interesting to talk to, and that is Mr. Tony Otoa from Uganda National Oil Company. He is the Corporate Affairs Officer, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at the Uganda National Oil Company. Now, the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is running a 90-day campaign dubbed the 90 Days of Oil and Gas. What does this mean and why this campaign? But also we want to have a larger conversation regarding the oil and gas sector in Uganda. Many conversations have been had, many debates, and also many myths regarding Uganda's oil. So Mr. Otoa here is the right person to actually answer some of these questions and demystify some myths that are concerned with the oil and gas sector in Uganda. You are most welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm glad to have you here, and I shouldn't call that the hot seat, but I'd like for you to answer some of the questions that Ugandans have. You see, when you hear conversations, let's say regarding Lake Victoria, and people are like, "Enyanja Bajitunda, the lake was sold." So now when it comes to the oil, there are also myths of that kind regarding Uganda's oil. So first of all, tell us more about the 90-day campaign. What is it all about? When did it start, and why is it important? Why should I, as a Ugandan, be interested in this campaign?
Thank you, first of all, for hosting me, and thank you for having me today. It's always amazing and happy, and I'm always happy to come back to UBC. So it's home for me.
Okay.
The 90 days of oil and gas are very interesting, or it's a very interesting concept that we started as UCMP about 4 years ago. This is the 4th edition, and what that or what we were trying to do was to, number one, get more people involved in these oil and gas conversations. You know, people have always said it's secretive. We are not, you know, dealing or people do not know what's going on. So we're trying to open it up, open up the sector to the public. But also too was to really get people to understand the work and the role that the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is doing in as far as this, you know, very interesting sector is concerned. But also trying to really broaden the membership of UCMP, because it's an important organization or group of, you know, businesses that supports themselves in as far as pushing the agenda for local, you know, participation in the sector. So the 90 days are very, very critical, or a very critical way of getting the industry to the people, getting the industry to interface with the public.
And do away with allegations that you're being secretive.
Yeah, you know what's very interesting, when we did a survey about 10 years ago in 2013, it was called the Industry Baseline Survey. What came out predominantly was that the industry is closed in. So the biggest challenge for any local person was visibility over demand, the lack of information. What the 90 days are simply doing is to unveil that information to the public as much as possible.
Okay, now those are 90 days, which is 3 months.
Yes.
So what happens after the 90 days? Do I still get that information? Do I still have access to you and the people that you work with if I need more information regarding the oil and gas sector?
Absolutely, absolutely. The truth is, I mean, the 90 days are to accelerate the conversation.
Yes.
However, that means that you haven't, or that means that we don't stop at that point. We actually just keep going on and speaking more about the oil and gas sector, what we do and how we do it. But what's also very, very important and very key in these conversations is that the 90 days are usually the ones that make many people get to know what's happening, because usually when we go through the normal process, you don't have many opportunities like this. You probably would not have an opportunity with me, or I wouldn't have an opportunity to come and share unless the 90 days come into play to allow me to be able to come and speak about the industry.
All right. So now, speaking of the industry, can you provide a brief overview of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum and its role in the oil and gas sector? I don't know if many people, we've heard of the Uganda National Oil Company, but I don't think many people have heard of UMCP.
Yeah. So UCMP was started, you know, about a decade ago, and the idea or the premise was to have an entity that can speak for or support Ugandan businesses in lobbying, but also understanding the sector and supporting them in how to operate within the sector. What UCMP has done over time is to support a lot of policy conversations at a national level, but also get Ugandan businesses into rooms that they would never have been, because this sector is very highly capital intensive. The players who have been in it predominantly have been the same usual big players. So UCMP, what it does is to get our local businesses, international businesses collectively to come into one talking, you know, situation or one table. It's of course comprised of the oil and gas majors, Total, you know, Sinok, UNOC, and many others, but also has a lot of local businesses who are suppliers that are involved in the same. So it's a good place, it's a good opportunity for businesses to come together, to deliberate together, to push their agendas together, and for the businesses to know what's going on at the same time in one go.
All right, now let's speak about the recent developments still in oil and gas. What are some of the major recent developments that have been occurring in this sector?
So many things are happening. I think we all know that ever since Final Investment Decision, FID, happened last year, there's been a buzz of activity in the Albertine region, all the way from Nyoya down to Bulisa. There's activity happening, and you can clearly see that for the local businesses, they're also benefiting from it, or the opportunities, but it's really the advancement towards fast oil, and fast oil being something that definitely we're looking forward to as a country. An opportunity for the country to at least start getting good revenue coming in from, you know, our natural resources, but also an opportunity for many businesses to get involved in the sector, for many people to get jobs and have themselves, you know, participating in the sector that we had not seen as a country. I don't know if you know, but it's a fairly new sector. Only been really active since 2006. So If you're talking about 2006, where you have that level of economic or commercial activity, because, I mean, oil has been around, by the way, for some time. It was discovered in the 20s, way back. However, in terms of commercializing it and activity happening from 2006. So it's still a new thing as compared to many countries around the world that have been doing this for years. You know, Nigeria, you know, you look at Gabon, you look at all of these countries have been doing it for some time. Ours, it's a new story. So again, it's a good opportunity, and so much is happening right now.
Now, I would like to get into the future.
Right.
Let's time travel.
Yeah.
You mentioned Nigeria and Gabon. Do we see a point in time when Uganda can actually be on that same footing where these countries are once we start being deeper and deeper into the oil sector?
Absolutely, absolutely. The only issue is, or the only thing is that we do not have the commercial deposits like they do. They have way more. But I think for a country like Uganda, for the deposits that we have, I think it's a good story because that can translate into national development.
Okay.
That can translate into jobs. That can translate into opportunity. With our population that is growing, it can translate to, you know, sectors or support to sectors that can help transform the country, the health sector, the education sector, and many more. But what's also really key here, if you're talking about the future, is that oil or our resources are still in the ground. We are only dealing with 40% of Uganda's potential right now, meaning that there's a 60% which hasn't been tapped.
Okay.
We have just, as UNOC, taken on an oil field called Kasurubani. Kasurubani hasn't even been, we haven't yet started drilling in there. So you can imagine the potential there. We have opportunities in the eastern part of Uganda, which people probably do not know. Again, that is untapped. So if you talk about the future, I think the future is really bright. There's still opportunity out there. There's going to be a lot of activity happening. And the beauty is that as a, if I now put on my UNOC hat, the Uganda National Oil Company hat, it's a good opportunity for Ugandans to be able to participate and control and run these activities. If you went to UNOC right now, it's a beautiful scenery because it's only Ugandans. You know what that means? We are getting our people, and by the way, we have amazing, nice people, great people. So we're getting our people into a position where they can actually run these activities by themselves. That's a good story for Uganda, meaning that all what is happening stays in country.
All right, and as you speak of people, you're not a recruiter, you're not an HR person, but I will still ask you this question.
Yes.
Many people wonder, to work in the oil and gas sector, what it requires for them to be there. Many people believe that, oh, if I didn't go to a school abroad, then I do not fit.
So again, I'll go back to the studies that we did in 2013, 2014, and looking at manpower and the manpower needs over the time, or in the different periods. Out of 100%, 1% will be people like me.
Okay.
Okay.
And who are people like you?
People like me who probably are, you know, at senior positions or technical positions and Then you have 14% who will be your engineers, you know, your either chemical engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. 14%. Then, interestingly, 60% will be your masons, your plumbers, your fabricators, your welders, your fitters, the people that do the technical kind of stuff, the jobs that emanate from technical institutions, or what we call BIDVETs, vocational institutions. And these are 60%. Now I'll shock you.
Okay.
25% are people without any qualification. All they just need to do is just to have the right certification when it comes to health and safety.
All right.
And these guys can work in the camps. They are the guys who support or support the activities in these camps or the oil area. So again, there are varieties, or there's a wide spectrum of opportunities in there. You don't necessarily have to go to study abroad to be able to do that. And I'll tell you what's very interesting, by the way. A month ago, we had gone with our board to the Senok rig, the rigs where, oil is going to be happening and everything is going to be happening. And there was a very interesting young lady, all the way from Bara University, running the activity at that rig. That is beautiful. A lady, Bara University, local content. You don't have to go abroad. You can actually study here, and with the right, the right mindset, you're definitely within the sector.
Well, I like the sound of that, and I'm sure many Ugandans are interested even more. Now, when you mention local content, let's talk about suppliers.
Yes.
Are these Ugandan as well, and what kind of supplies are they giving to the oil and gas sector?
So suppliers range, it's a huge range, because you start off, of course, with the really critical supplies, which are very difficult for usually a Ugandan to get into because they're capital intensive. And to do them, you have to have the right muscle. You probably have done them in a long time. Some of these involve, for instance, machine shops where the pipes are maintained or taken care of. Very, very expensive for a Ugandan to really venture into that. Then you have opportunities like, basic ones all the way from transport, catering, camp services, HR management. It's a wide spectrum of services. And here, again, Ugandans are visibly playing in. They're easy, not very much in terms of opportunities for money, okay, but they are easy to get into. When it comes to the money opportunities, it is, again, very much in the technical areas where you provide the technical services. But you'll find that Ugandans are actually participating in many of these things. And it's a good story. I think I read somewhere last week a report from the Accountant General, Ugandans benefiting or providing revenue into the economy from the oil and gas sector has increased. And in fact, the oil and gas sector was starting to be seen, or has started to be seen, as a major contributor to the financial basket of this country. And I think that's a good thing.
And that's where I was going,
Yeah.
because I'm sure someone watching is wondering, okay, we just passed a 72 trillion national budget. We have actually started on it already, because we are in July already. And one wonders, what is the contribution, or is there any contribution so far of the oil and gas sector in Uganda to the national GDP?
I think it's evident. Just think about it. Before FID, we didn't have Ugandans participating very much in the sector, providing any goods and service, because the sector was silent. Over the last 1 year and 1.5 years, Ugandans have been providing goods and services, and including as well their manpower. So you can find, or you have now, we're now seeing Ugandans contributing, payee, for instance, into the economy. Ugandans, contributing tax through VAT from whatever they are providing to the sector. So the more we build this base, the more it grows, the more contributions to our economy. And I think that's a good story. If you compare the statistics now and those before, let's say pre-FID, then you'll find that there's actually a huge difference coming into the economy.
All right, we are speaking 90 days of oil and gas. I have Mr. Tony Otoa from the Uganda National Oil Company. He's the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer over there. And he is telling us more about what this really means. Why do we have the 90 days of oil and gas? And to take from what he shared, he says they are opening up the industry. They use this opportunity, these 3 months, 90 days, to open up the industry, speak more about the industry, because many people think and believe that it is so closed. So they want to open it up, make you understand the opportunities therein, the advantages of us as a country getting into the oil and gas sector, or mining, if you wish. And so we are having this conversation. And if you have any queries, you can send them through WhatsApp number 0709-602-592, or you can share your views on X. Our hashtag is UBCGMU. I'll be able to share the same. Please do not call, and leave your name when you ask a question. Now, coming back to you, Mr. Otoa, one would wonder, you've shared well on the local content, and Ugandans who felt that they cannot actually work with the oil and gas sector, it's been said, you don't have to go abroad. You can be you as me, Najuma, and if you have the necessary skills, then you can join the sector. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
To speak of, because you've had the conversations yourself.
Yes.
You've had them. Anyway, moving on. So we have other questions in the realm of collaboration. And one would wonder, is the government working to ensure that there is compliance in environmental standards?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the most important things to note here is we are working in a very sensitive environment. But also, globally, the conversations around the world are now about global warming, climate change
yes.
and all of these things. So it's important for us to do our work the best way we can with the efficiency it deserves to make sure that we're protecting the environment at all times for future generations. That's number one. But number two is the fact that our national bodies like NEMA have been very instrumental in making sure that we actually get the necessary permits and work in the necessary conditions as promised to make sure that we do not destroy the environment. But what's also important is that if you look at the Albertine area, a lot of it is in what we call Ramsar site areas, areas that are supposed to be protected at all times and not interrupted with. We have made sure as an industry not to do that. So if you look at the technology that we are actually using, the fact that we won't be flaring, you know, flaring is very bad for the environment and the emissions that are, I mean, the carbon emissions that happen, we are not doing that. We are doing or using very interesting technology when it comes to drilling, making sure that we have less footprint on the environment, okay? But still maximizing the opportunities that are within, you know, the spaces where we're operating. So it's a very interesting one, and I must say that NEMA has played a very important role in not only regulating, but also putting a proper check on how we are operating. When you look, or if you went to the Albertine or the operation area, you will notice that the cars that are actually in there are cars of a certain standard, meaning that they are not cars that are going to destroy the environment or emit a lot of fumes in the environment. Then again, if you also look at the conversations around, you know, safety, you know, moving at certain speeds within the operational area to make sure that everything is safe, including the natural habitat, the animals that are within the same space. So, yes, there's been a lot of amazing collaboration, and I think it's for the betterment of whatever is happening.
Now, speaking about climate change, there have been calls by civil society organizations to halt Uganda's venture into oil, and they are saying that the world is on its knees because of fossil fuels. What would you have to say about that?
The world is on its knees because of fossil fuels. Who's saying that, and whose agenda is it? You know, when Europeans come and give you that agenda after using oil and gas to develop their economies over time, and they're still doing it.
Yes.
I think it's a very, very wrong thing to push countries like ours into that situation. But what's really key is, what are we doing? As a country, as a company, by the way, and I'll speak for my company, the Uganda National Company, we have embarked on a massive tree planting campaign, meaning that we are aiming for net zero. Net zero meaning we are working on mitigating anything that might look like a climate change situation. We want at all times, whatever we do and how we do it, is making sure that we are actually benefiting more on the positive side than doing anything on the negative side. Uganda as a country, if you look at how much we are emitting, and you look at how much the
people pushing
are emitting, you'll really realize that we need to understand that our development is important as well.
Yes.
As a country, we have a commitment to develop, but we can also do it with the right mechanisms in place to make sure that we are protecting the environment at all times. And I think this is very evident, very, very evident. We are still pursuing our tree planting campaigns. We are still pursuing our Go Green campaigns. We are having conversations on energy transition. We are promoting the usage of, you know, solar, for instance, the usage of electricity, which means that at all times we are taking care of the environment.
All right, and these trees, the tree campaign, the tree planting campaign that you've been embarking on, in which areas are you planting these trees?
We want to take it national. We have really been doing it in the north, a lot in the north and within the Albertine region.
Okay.
The refinery area, or the Kabalega Industrial Park, is also one area that has been seeing a lot of this. We want to now take it national. We want to work with young people to plant as many trees so that as a country we can stand and say we are doing something for the environment, because we are mitigating or we are offsetting what could have actually been, carbon emissions into the environment.
All right, we are speaking to Mr. Tony Otoa, who is the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at the Uganda National Oil Company. And the topic of discussion today is the 90 days of oil and gas sector in Uganda. We are opening up conversations regarding the oil and gas sector, and it's answered most of the pertinent questions that Ugandans normally ask, or debates that you find on, let's say, X, where people are asking questions, and of course some mistruths are being shared thereon. But it's important to get someone from the sector to answer these questions and clarify on some issues. And I understand that with every venture, there are challenges. What would you say are some of the challenges that the oil and gas sector in Uganda is currently facing?
I think as a sector, so many things have been dealt with, but one of the major challenges, especially for the local businesses, is that of access to finance. Like I mentioned before, it's a very capital-intensive sector. And because it's capital-intensive, you'll find that there are very few businesses that can handle themselves or take care of themselves when it comes to the amount of money needed to execute contracts. So because of that, there are either delays in the execution of these contracts, there are either timelines which are not met, and that is impacting on the credibility of these companies. And many of them, unfortunately, have had to close business. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is that of access to finance. If we can open up, if we can be real and say we are promoting local businesses, and part of that is going to be capitalization or support to these businesses to get capital into their businesses, I think that would be a good one. The other one that I also see as a challenge is the need to get as many people with the right education as soon as possible, because the sector is moving and we are a little slow in terms of getting our young people ready. But I think the commitment that has come in from the oil players, our partners, and UNOC is to make sure that we train as many young people. We had welders being trained, we had plumbers being trained, we had people getting trained in a lot of these technical areas where they can actually provide their services to the sector, but also can also use those skills to make money for themselves.
All right. And what, in your opinion, are some of the investment opportunities still in the sector?
There are several. Again, listening to these 90 days of oil and gas, you'll realize that there's several. And also joining UCMP will even give you an opportunity to know what's really out there. It's very difficult for people to just get opportunities from an advert that is just, placed once in a while. But when you're in the right conversations, the right groups like Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, at all times you're dealing with information coming in. All these adverts that come in once, we are dealing with them almost every day. So there's an opportunity for you to see what's going out there. In terms of the activity, you need again to understand that we haven't yet gotten to the peak of this oil and gas development phase, meaning there's still so much going on. There's still so much to happen over time.
Okay.
And the more we participate in the sector, understand how it runs, get our hands dirty, you will actually be able to benefit from whatever is going on. So it is not that, people always say, in Uganda, they say, echigali chituiseko. Here, echigari chitandise mpola. So you have to be able to jump on it immediately and ride with it. Otherwise, you don't want to start thinking about investing or investing when the Chigali has already gone.
When everything has
Yes.
picked up.
So the right conversations, the right forums, again, come to a lot of our events, especially the conferences, because at the conferences we have businesses and companies speaking about what they're doing, speaking about where they're going. And
All right.
that is, again, another opportunity.
Okay. You'll tell us more about some of the activities that are happening in the 90 days of oil and gas. But I want to get into your house a
Yes,
bit,
yes.
and that is the Ugandan National Oil Company. I understand that you have the control, control as the exclusive importer
Yes.
of petroleum products.
Yes.
And there is a development there.
Yes, yes.
Please share with us.
Sole importer. So we are now Uganda's sole importer of all petroleum products.
Yes.
And you know, Najuma, Uganda is a very interesting country because in a day we use about between 6.5 to 7 million liters of product, either petrol and diesel and petrol combined. And when you think about it, as a country we have been suffering because we are going through middlemen who have been, providing us these products and again, deciding the prices at the pump or deciding the prices that we pay. What we did last week was to launch the first vessels coming into the country. We had Navigate Martinez and Sinbad bringing in combined product of about 135 million liters of both petrol and diesel. What this means is that we can now start having supplies into the country at all times taken care of by the Uganda National Oil Company. On the 24th of this month, we'll be having another vessel bringing in a lot of product as well. Again, we are making sure that the security stocks or the availability of these products at all times is possible. That's number one. And what that does as well, eventually, is it has an impact on whether you're paying more or less. But what's really key is that at all times, you will never have an issue to have either fuel in your boda or your car or whatever you're going to do with this fuel. But it's important to understand that this mandate gives the Uganda National Oil Company a great opportunity to serve the country even better. And I think this is what's really happening. And we're excited about it. It's a good opportunity for us as Ugandans to run our own story. And again, over the next few years, we're going to have very interesting developments with the building of the Kampala storage terminal, which will mean that at all time, we have even more stock in the country to make sure that we are secure in terms of our resources.
All right. Now I'll do the Ugandan question.
Yes.
I'm pretending right now to be a border rider.
Yes.
And with us not using middlemen and having oil at any time,
Yes.
does that mean the price goes lower?
So there's hope that if we do it right, that will happen, because there's so many things that control price, control fuel prices. Global prices could affect it. If you think about the transportation, the cost of freight, we have to go through the Kenyan pipeline company as well. That is also, a cost. We have to then have it stored. Again, that's a cost. However, what we are guaranteeing is that all oil marketing companies, be it Total, Shell, Gapco, whatever, are getting a very competitive price that should reflect on their pumps. So what we do is to supply them with that product at a very competitive price and make sure that they have stock at all time. So there is no need for them to hike their prices. But what we are saying is that we want to assure Ugandans that our prices are competitive. And that's why we had to do it ourselves, because then we are eliminating people. We've eliminated probably 2 to 3 middlemen. And I think that's an important point.
All right. Now, speaking about the middlemen that you've eliminated, there was a headline by the East African last month saying that Uganda locks out Kenya.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Let me explain the whole value chain.
Okay.
So what happens is you have a refinery or refinery company, let's say in Kuwait or UAE or Saudi Arabia. What happens is that company has, or that refinery has a company that runs it, okay? Now that company becomes Trader 1. Trader 1 then sells to Trader 2, who is a Kenyan company. Trader 2 then sells to OMC 1, who is a Kenyan company. OMC1 then sells to OMC2, who is probably another Kenyan company, who then sells to a Ugandan OMC, oil marketing company, Total, Shell, and so on and so forth, who then takes it to their pumps or sell as well to other dealers.
Yes.
We have cut out Trader 2, OMC 2, rather 1 and 2. There's about three loops you've cut out. Meaning that the Uganda National Oil Company with our partner Vito, who is now the Trader 1, dealing with the refinery in Bahrain, for instance, or Fujairah. Now that comes straight to UNOC and straight to the Ugandan Oil Marketing Company.
Okay.
So we've cut out the blockages, if you can see that. And we are hoping that by doing this, when we are giving our prices to the OMCs, they can actually demonstrate it at their pumps.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. Well, and still speaking about oil and gas. Now we have the 90 days of oil and gas. We are answering, I am not, Mr. Otoa is answering questions and giving very clear explanations regarding some of the things probably you've been wondering about as a Ugandan. It was exciting when the government shared that we had found oil in the country and we're going to start mining our own oil. So this conversation is really important for you, for me, and everyone that lives in this country, but also would like to invest in Uganda. Now, coming back to the 90 days of oil and gas, what are some of the activities that are taking place in these 90 days?
So we have a lot of activities. First of all, one of them is going to be our AGM, which is a very good opportunity for members to come together and deliberate on the sector, but also to see how best we can support each other. And then, of course, we have the follow-ups with the different sectors. Focus group sectors, or focus groups where we focus on the transport sector, the hospitality sector, the banking or financial sector, the insurance sector, and many more. So we then go away into focus groups to deliberate and see how best we can support each other. But also what's really key is the small events like the meetups and the conferences and the conversations around the sector. So these are things that occupy us over the next 90 days. But what's also really key is the sector-led conversations, which I think for me are very, very important in understanding or taking an in-depth view in the issues that the members are facing within the sector.
All right. I have a question coming in from Amara Roy, and he's asking, how much will Uganda be making from its oil annually? Is there a way of knowing that?
It's a very difficult question for me to answer right now because there are so many factors that are involved. Prices fluctuate like it's like any commodity. I can tell you that probably last week's oil international prices are not the same today. So there's so many things that impact that. But what is a fact is that the country will still be making money. And I think that is a good opportunity. Otherwise, we wouldn't be investing in this opportunity. And the reason why people get to, or why the industry gets to what they call the final investment decision is to make sure that at all times and by all means, it makes sense to invest in it. So by the time you're getting the final investment decision, you've said, okay, chino chikola, wano tuitao, yeah? And that is exactly what I think the country has decided on. And it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity.
Okay, and M. Davis says, thanks for the program. There is evidence to demonstrate what you people of oil and gas company are doing. I would say this is the rightful time of recruiting enormous number of employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, if you look at the press, every Monday, there is usually massive adverts in the New Vision, I think, calling for, you know, people with the skills that are required. But also to understand this is the opportunity that comes from the Ugandan companies that are starting to work in the sector. They also provide an opportunity for jobs, opportunities in that area. So I think, again, it's going to be crazy. We talked when doing this survey of asking ourselves how many people will be needed. We will need close to 150,000 people in all sectors. But of course, with the core being about 35,000. And then, of course, you have the induced who are because of the core, and then the others who are around that. So definitely, you'll have to see at peak, a very huge amount of Ugandans or local people in the sector.
Now, I've had so many questions from various people asking about how they can get these jobs.
Yeah.
Do they have to check the papers? What do they have to do to have access to these jobs?
I think one of the most critical things is if they have a skill, they can register themselves on what we call the National Talent Register. The National Talent Register is on the Petroleum Authority of Uganda's website. In there, people or potential employers can go and look at the pool or advertise the opportunities that they have to the pool, and the pool can then look out for, or the people in the pool can then look out for what opportunities they can subscribe to. The other thing is, again, to constantly visit the websites of these organizations, the Uganda National Oil Company. Do not go to these buffet who are sending out all these funny emails, but go to legit websites like the Uganda National Oil Company, go to the careers part, click, and you'll see what opportunities are available. Same thing with the other oil companies. It's clearly out there.
Okay.
But also, UCMP and the members are very deliberate as well on speaking about what opportunities they have. And some of these questions or some of these contacts can actually be made with UCMP or the UCMP Secretariat. But I can tell you for a fact that there is so much going on that the need for manpower is very evident. If you went to the oil and gas region, all the way, like I said, from Nyoya in Acholi sub-region down to Ngero area, you will notice that there are two types of category. The people as well in the local area are benefiting because there are certain jobs and skills which are for the people, local people. Okay, you cannot bring in a security officer from Kampala when there's a local guy who can provide that. A cleaner, clearly, when there's a guy in the area who can actually clean. Then you have the other level where anyone nationally can actually participate. So again, let's look out for those. You know, now we're in a digital era, you know.
Yes, we are.
Go online and look out for these opportunities on there.
Exactly. I've been speaking to Mr. Tony Otoa from the Uganda National Oil Company. And Mr. Otoa, please share your last remarks, especially regarding the 90 days of oil and gas.
Okay, I just want us to say it's a very huge opportunity for Ugandans to know what's happening. For a long time, we have asked ourselves where these opportunities are, what they mean, and how we can actually get involved in them. The 90 days provides an opportunity for Ugandans to, number one, get to know what's going on, number two, get involved in what's going on, but number three, get to have their answers or their questions answered. And I think if we can follow UCMP, go to their website, or visit the member companies that are part of UCMP, a lot of these questions will be answered, but also a good opportunity for you to be involved in the sector.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Otoa.
You're very welcome.
And thank you so much for watching. We've been talking the 90 days of oil and gas in Uganda. Mr. Tony Otoa, who is the Corporate Affairs Officer the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at the Uganda National Oil Company, has been answering some of the questions, the queries, the debates that you normally have regarding Uganda's oil sector. And if you've caught the conversation at its tail end, you can visit our YouTube channel and you will find all of it there so that you get to understand the nitty-gritty of the oil and gas sector in Uganda. My name is Olive. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, Ruben Mpima will be giving us the sports updates. Stay tuned.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja to the town or city near you between July and December this year. Don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda as we see it today never had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of of all these races, the races of Africa.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Ngero are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even.
Similar people.
We are one. Use that word pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko pamoja?
Juko.
Yo.
Hawachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda wange, haven't you heard of the Parish development?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
But yeah, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better.
PDM,
my parish, my development, my life.